Welcome back, Driving at Home community, to the IP Cam. Today we're going to be doing a special review of a recent deal you might have seen in previous videos, or we'll see in a future video. Maybe this will be included on the same video with those, but to go along with our series of videos showing sort of the anatomy of the deal, to give you an idea of how a negotiation goes for a new car or for a used car. We're going to look today at, once you go through a purchase, how the paperwork comes through for finishing the whole transaction, and then what happens when you then need to go get your tags, or if they get the tags, things like this. Now, this will be, the process will vary somewhat from state to state. Of course, if you're out of the United States, then your process might be completely different, but this should give you a rough estimate of what to expect when you go to a dealership. Now, this car was for a used vehicle, not brand new, and it was for a deal where there was not financing involved. So in that way, there will be some differences between this and any other deal that you might go into. Again, if you're at a different dealership, they may have different paperwork. If you're in a different state, different paperwork. And if you are financing, you'll have different paperwork. So without further ado, I'll just quickly go through these with you. I'm not going to share too many details, but just give you an idea of what we're looking at. First is a very important document, which is here called the vehicle buyer's order. And it is a one-page document. Basically, it details what the car is, the VIN number, who you are purchasing the car, and then it details down through every bit of the financial part of the transaction. So you have the price of the vehicle, and then all the fees and whatnot that go on there. So I'll go down those fees here with you real quick. One is documentary fee, $225 in this case. An optional, what do they call it, convenience fee of $15. I think that's for them to charge you something to help you get your title squared away. In any case, we'll cover that a little bit more at the end of this video. And then they have the total taxable amount after they add those in, and then they figure up the sales tax, which in your state it would be your percentage of whatever the sales tax is there. Every state's different. Indiana happens to have a 7% sales tax, so that's what it is here. And then there is a license, transfer, and title registration fee after that, added on $15 for that. So then they come with the subtotal, and then they have, if you had anything for your trade-in, they would subtract it after that, and then your total amount due on the vehicle at the bottom. Now, if you saw prior videos or where we've negotiated, you know that we always talk about the negotiating the final price as the price out the door, because that is what you will have at the bottom of this sheet, is that price, nothing else added on. A lot of times they want to start with the first price at the top and negotiate from that. Then they can add the taxes and title and all that to that, therefore getting a better price for the car themselves. And they can do this kind of thing without you really knowing what they're doing until you get to the final paperwork. Now, this is where I'm always harping on you all to pay attention, because when you read these documents, if you look at that bottom line and it's not exactly what you worked out with them, you don't have to sign this paper. You can say, nope, that's incorrect. We need to fix this, that, and the other thing. And if they don't fix it, you can always have the option of walking out the door and not buying the car. Hopefully you've learned from our prior videos as well to not become emotionally attached to the car as much as possible, or to do something to counter your emotional attachment, because at some point you're going to get locked in on that car, but you want to be able to sort of separate from that car for a moment emotionally, to be able to walk out the door, because that's your power in getting the price that you want. So if you start to walk out the door, many times the dealer will then fix this price. There was actually some errors in the way they figured this up in mine that were kind of a honest mistake, I think. But again, I looked at it, things didn't add up, and they didn't seem to know why, and they took it back and they fixed it, came back, and it was all good. But in any case, the bottom line needs to be exactly what you negotiated for that bottom line if you're talking about drive out price. So that's that document. There's a lot of legalese in here, whatnot. They ask you to, on this one, to initial a couple places and sign down at the bottom. And one of the main things I do is to verify that the VIN number here matches all the other actual VIN numbers for the car, because that's really the nugget that's going to pinpoint that the car you're getting here is the one that you have been looking at. So so that's that. If you have any questions about that, feel free to drop a note in the comments, and I'll be glad to share more with you as much as possible. So quickly going through the next things, these are going to be a little bit more quick because they're kind of state required forms, are kind of normal. So first is we have application application for certificate of title for a vehicle. Well, that's just basically them putting in that you're applying for the vehicle. This is where they figure the tax, the sales tax on it. They show that, they show the actual amount subject to the tax, and I will be taking that to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles or the DMV or whatever it's called. In your state, you'll take it there, or what have you. Again, check with your state to make sure that the process you're following is according to your state. But here we will take this in there, and this will prove that we have worked out all the details with the dealer. Then we have a convenience fee disclosure, which I told you before was that $15 that they charge. They're disclosing that they charged it, and the reason that they're charging it is for convenience fee. Again, that's not added to the final price because we were negotiating for the drive out price, and that's within that price. So then the next thing is immediate delivery rider. Okay, this is something we needed to sign. The other document I needed to sign as well. Just saying that we understand it, but this is basically saying the car is being delivered as soon as this paperwork is signed. There's not going to be held for any reason, and there's no financing that needs to happen with this car because it was a cash deal. But if there was financing, that they're not obligated to let you have the car until the financing is approved and finalized. So they have some other items in there that talk about that you need to return the car if the financing doesn't go through, because they're just letting you take it on the assumption that your financing is good to go and that there's not going to be any snafus, which usually there isn't at this point. But you never know, and they're trying to cover their bases, which we don't blame them. They don't want an average person from the public just taking their car and then they don't get to see it ever again, and whether if the financing falls through. Next thing we have is a limited power of attorney for vehicle transactions. This is to give them the ability to just quickly go in and resolve any issues with the registration and titling of the car. if there's some snafu with a typo or something like that, they can work through it pretty quickly. Usually not a problem. We just sign this to let them have that limited power of attorney. Should not scare you too much because it's limited to just what it states on there, which is only for titling and registration purposes. The next thing we have is the odometer disclosure statement, which is again a state required form where it gives them the opportunity to provide the current mileage at the sale of the vehicle, which is required by law. So they do that. I just look at that to confirm that it looks right and that the VIN number is correct, and we sign that document and move on. We have a used vehicle rider, which is their way of saying once more, this is a used vehicle. It's not a new vehicle. There's nothing that we are going to state that we will expect that it's going to adhere to a new car warranty, or the new car dealership side of their dealer is going to provide any special follow-up service for this car. They do have a exclusion in here where they say nothing was made, no statement or representation was made except for the following by the dealer. Then they have a blank for adding those items in there if there were things that you negotiated to be added in there. So there's a little opening there for you to add something if you really want it to be done by the dealer, and that's another negotiating point for you. If they don't want to come down on price, you can add that they need to fix this, add this, whatever. Or if they need to do something to make the car serviceable for you, then that's where you would add it as well, so that they could be on the hook to do that later after you take the car and possess the car. I can go further in depth with this with you if you want me to. Just drop a note in the comments to let me know what you would like to know about that. Again, I signed that form just straight up. They have another form where they went through the options for extended vehicle protection plans. That's like a warranty that you buy into, that they present to you, different options, and that would basically give you the ability to bring the car into a service repair facility, probably has to be certified, blah blah blah. I ended up declining this because this was a Toyota, and I decided that the likelihood that the car is in serviceable shape and will not be breaking soon is high, so I did not accept that. You might want to accept one of these. You have to pay more for it. There's sort of pros and cons to this. The big con for me that I don't typically go for these is that usually there's a lot of red tape and small print that you have to adhere to in order for this thing to even kick in, and I just don't want to have to look through that and figure that out when I'm at the dealer. So I decline this and just take the risk of, well, whatever breaks I'll fix. Again, your comfort level may vary. One nice thing about these is that he said, again, you have to check this, that you can cancel at any time and then you get your money back. So, at least for a prorated amount. So if you have, wet feet, or if you get into it 6 months, you feel like, hey, the car is going to work out fine, you get this, and you could potentially then cancel it and get your, whatever the 6 months is of the total time frame of your money back. The amounts that they were talking about were up to $5,800 for a long term, down to like just under $2,000 for a 3 years, 45,000 mile extra protection plan. So there again, if you want more information on that, again, leave a note in the comments and we'll get to those. There were 2 documents. One was the form showing what they offered me so they could go then show it to their management that they presented it to me. They wanted me to initial and sign that yes, I declined this offer. So that covers their basis for whenever the management comes and says, why haven't we sold this extended protection plan to these customers? They can say, well, we offered it to them, we even discounted it and gave them the whole pitch, and they decided they still didn't want it. They signed it, they declined it. Also, they declined everything else that we offered, which is what I was typically intending to do, because I can take care of that in other ways. We've got AAA on our cars so that we don't need roadside hazard assistance typically. Sometimes that's in your insurance as well, policy, so you can decline that there. Again, I sign that. Then another big, highly important, actually, let me go back. Before I cover this most important document of all, is they did have us sign an agreement to arbitrate. So they want to agree to allow either party, me as the buyer or you as a buyer, and or the dealer as the seller, to choose arbitration should there be a dispute arising in the future that would typically go to court. They'd like to arbitrate, which is not in, that's outside of the court system, and it's, you can look up arbitration. I'm not going to read the whole fine print to you. It'll take a whole nother video just to do that. But if you want more information, drop it in the comments. Again, next we have the as is document, the form that they put up on the window that you see on used cars. They give you that, and has that it's as is, no dealer warranty, and shows what car it is, and the VIN number. Again, the VIN number needs to match, so you can double check those things. Big document you want to make sure you get when you do a cash purchase, especially if you're putting out all cash for a car, or even if you are doing a finance car or financing the car. There's some amount that you are paying, probably a down payment, some on the transaction fees. You want a receipt showing, hey, I just gave you a check for so much money, or I gave you so much cash. I need a receipt from your company on their letterhead saying that, yea, verily, they got that amount of money, and so therefore they're going to document it as such. The big benefit to getting this too is that when you do go to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles in your state, is that they usually will ask, how much did you pay for the car? And besides it being on that form, the sales order form that we talked about initially in this video, the amount paid for taxes is included on that, and the amount paid for the purchase price of the car was included on that, and then the amount that we actually paid was included on that. So then in the end, this actually helps to verify that that's exactly what you paid for that car. So make sure you get your receipt. It sounds kind of mundane. You get a receipt everywhere you go for small purchases. Maybe you decided to decline a receipt. Like maybe this gentleman here decided to not get a receipt for his gas that he got at the pump today. But he could have, and that would have proved that he made that purchase. Again, maybe not a big deal, but for huge, big ticket purchases, the receipt, bill of sale, and those types of items are a big deal. So make sure you get those. So that's sort of the anatomy of the paperwork that you're going to fill out and work with a dealer on. This video has gone to almost 20 minutes, and we'll try to close it down here. But one couple of items you want to make sure you take to the dealer when you go to help smooth out items is a current, non-expired insurance policy card. I had one, but it was expired because it had just expired. I had not put the new one in the car yet. Not a big deal. I called up the insurance agent. They emailed one right over to the dealer, and we were good to go. They want that, I think, to make sure that you're good with taking the car off their lot once you purchase it, that you're good to go. So, thank you for holding out in this lengthy video, but hopefully that gives you sort of a feel for how the paperwork goes in a cash purchase from a dealership. Let us know if you have any questions in the comments. Make sure you like this if this was helpful at all to you. And then if you want to, subscribe to our channel, because we will have this along with all of our other videos about purchasing vehicles and looking at different vehicles from the aspects of being a total car nut to being an enthusiast for all kinds of great vehicles, and also being very practical with our purchasing decisions. We cover it all here because we're about all cars all the time here at Driving It Home. See you next time.